This lesson is about the self-connection process. What do I mean by self-connection? When you're not self-connected, when we're not self-connected, we react out of the habitual patterns that we have developed over time. Habitual patterns give us very little conscious choice. Once we're triggered into a habit pattern, we tend to play out the routine that is associated with that pattern. And then when we get to whatever the reward is. Now, the reward may not be a reward that is something that actually is, that we decide is beneficial or is in alignment with our values. But once it gets baked into the neurology to be a habit, the system doesn't self-correct. We need to intervene consciously in the process. So self-connection is about freeing yourself from these kind of habit patterns, or at least that's part of it. And to have an alternative to when you are into a habit pattern. So being present is being in the moment. There are all these different words for it. There's not really a perfect language to explain it. You talk around it, but it's to be present. It's a mindfulness technique of being present so that you can choose whether you're on the Aikido or the martial arts mat. Can you, in the face of a mock challenge, can you be present and relax and have more choice? And in the dojo of life, can you have more choice by being able to be present and react and not react, but respond? And the benefits that come from this are that you can develop these newer systems, you can intervene, that you can listen effectively to other people, and you can take back agency, your agency to choose the way you want to choose, so that you're not looking back regretting your conduct, but that you will engage in conduct that's alignment with your values and that you're not going to regret. Okay, so how do you go about self-connecting? Well, first you have to learn when you're not self-connected, and that is a critical skill to being self-connected. So you can begin by starting to pay attention to the stress response. One of the practices, the exercises, the maps that we have in this course is to actually set yourself up in a situation to where you're going to get stimulated into the stress response, and that you can pay attention to what that feels like so that you can take that into your day-to-day life, and you can begin to recognize the physiological cues. And then you can also have an if-then statement. If I get triggered into this situation, I'm going to do such and such. And so you can pause and you can choose what conduct you want to engage in. So the self-connection process, this process that I offer in this, there are other ways to become self-connection: meditation, prayer, exercise, I mean, including, sex, intimacy, warm connection with another human being is a way of it's not necessarily, but a way of becoming self-connected. And then there are others in the wisdom literature and in practice that you undoubtedly know about. In what I'm offering, the self-connection process, it's a 3-step process: breath, body, needs. All you need to do is notice that you're in one of those situations where you're not self-connected, and you will become more skillful over time in noticing that. And then all you have to do is remember breath, and then you pay attention to the breath, and then all the rest of it will come back to you if you've been practicing. So the breath is inhale, deeply, but not to the maximum extent. Just increase the inhale and exhale longer than the inhale. There's some science that supports doing that, will support reducing the indicators of stress. So you're paying attention to the breath, and you continue to pay attention to the breath, and you continue to breathe in this way of increased inhale, extended exhale, longer than the inhale. But you begin to pay attention to the body, and you pay attention to the body in three ways. You pay attention to one, just what you're experiencing without talking to yourself about this. Just for a few seconds, 10, 30 seconds, just pay attention to your body and see if you can not talk to yourself about what you're experiencing. Then begin to talk to yourself. Oh, I have a tightness here, a burning here, a weight, sense of weight in my seat, the food I ate too much, or it's not digesting so well, whatever. So you're talking to yourself about that. And then thirdly, you shift into, what am I feeling at this moment? Am I sad? Am I glad? Am I happy, or am I mad? And there's, lists of feelings that you can find on the internet. When I first started this work, I had two feelings, fine and angry. And it took me 5 years of meditation to identify that I had the second feeling, which was anger. And that was very painful for me to realize, because I had young children at the time and I was not connected with myself, and I regret that. So you want to identify your feeling, you want to be able to put a name on it, and then ask yourself, if I'm having this feeling, what need is not being met or is being met? So if I'm feeling challenged, it's going to be a need that's not being met. And this is a kind of query. You're actually having a conversation with the nonverbal part of yourself. So it's like koan practice in the Zen tradition. It's like you float the question, but you don't go grasping after it and try to figure it out. It's just, oh, if I'm feeling sad here, if I'm feeling afraid, what is this about? What is the need? Is it a need for safety, a need for well-being, a need to be seen, to be valued, and you just, ask yourself these questions softly, and then the body will tell you. You'll get feedback from the body. Oh, that's the need. And often with a sense of relief and softening of your body tension. And this is also something that you're learning. You're learning that signal. You're learning what your body tells you when you're not, when you have identified accurately the need that is met or not met. Okay. Then finally, what you do with the need is a two-part process. That's the first part. The second part process is to just hold that need in consciousness, whatever it is, need for safety, need for well-being. And you hold that in your consciousness and you go, what would it be like if that were completely met at this moment? And then you experience what you experience. Pay attention. First, just experience it, then maybe talk to yourself about it. But just experience what it would be like. How would the world be different? And how would you experience the world differently if your need for safety were met? Okay. And there'll be a session that talks about this more, a lesson. So when do I recommend that you use the self-connection process? I suggest that you do it as a daily exercise, 3 to 5 minutes. And that you do it as a kind of a little meditation. You can do it, as part of your commute, as long as you're not the one driving. You can do it as part of your wake-up procedure, as a part of your going to bed at night. But just isolate and identify a time when you're going to do this. And then I'd like you to do at least a couple of times a day, but many more times than that, of doing a shorter version, so this longer version is 3 to 5 minutes. The shorter version is like 3 to 5 breaths. And at first that may seem like that's way too little time to do this, but with practice, it will come. I have confidence that that's going to be what you're going to experience. And then, um, you set up times that you're going to do this, like when you're you're starting up your computer, you're shutting it down, you're going through a certain door, you're walking to the restroom for your bio break for the day. These are times when you're not under stress, you're not in conflict, you're not you may not consciously be aware that you're not present, but you do it because you've set it up as a practice. And then you start using it, if you can remember to use it in those situations when you're feeling challenged, when you're in the meeting at work and somebody says something and you feel this kind, and you're beginning to notice and remember the physiological cues of when you're beginning the stress response. And then you can begin to do this in those situations. And that's proof of the pudding. That's where you want to be doing this as much as possible. And these other practice situations are to help you, help you be ready to do it in the wild, I call it, and real time when something's actually happening. So if you do this, you'll have more control over your life. This will allow you to make more conscious choices from assessing the different strategies that would meet your needs instead of just going to that habitual one. It's not, I've been talking about the stress response as a time to use this, but also you'll learn that there are other times when you tend to make decisions that are not in alignment with your values, like when you're hungry or when you're fatigued. And if you can pause and give an opportunity for the prefrontal cortex, for your consciousness to step in there and to override, to make choices against the lower amygdala, the lower brainstem parts of the brain. Okay, we're coming close to the end here. I've said all this. Okay. Now, the greater the access, the more that often you practice, the greater access you will have to this ability to be present in challenging situations. And you will have the mindfulness benefits that result from being present. And finally, you will speed up the integration and the learning of NVC by constantly being reminded of what feelings are, what needs are. If you are like me, you need to develop a vocabulary of what your feelings are, because you may not be in the habit or be accustomed to identifying how you feel.